So here it says the following network shows the flow of water supplied from the main storage tank A to the other intermediate tanks through the pipeline. So you see that there is a main storage tank which is called A. From that, it flows to B, C, D, E. From there, it flows to then F, J, I, G, H, and K one by one. After that, I see the supply of water is such that each of the tanks, only after the tank is full, the water is passed on to the next tanks. So when one tank is full, I mean whatever capacity of the tank is, once that is satisfied, after that only it will flow to the next tank. The capacity of each pipeline that is directly connected to the main storage tank, which is A, of course, that is 2500 liters, and that of the other pipelines is 2000 liters. The value alongside each tank gives the requirement in liters at each tank. The direction of the flow of water is indicated by arrows. The supply at tank K is maximum possible and it has unlimited capacity to hold water, and there is at least 100 liters of water flowing in each pipeline. This is important information. This is an important information. This is an important information. So these all are to be taken care of along with this. A slack in a pipeline is defined as the additional flow that is required to bring the pipeline to its full capacity. For example, for a pipeline where the capacity is 2000, if only 500 is flowing, slack is 1500. If only 800 is flowing, slack is 1200. That way, slack is the remaining portion of that pipe. So let's start looking at the questions. What is the minimum possible flow of water between F and J? So I want to minimize the flow of water from F to J. Of course, 2500 would go from here. B would consume 700 out of it, will send 1800 ahead. 2500 will go from here. 2500 will go from here. And 2500 will go from here. So ultimately, I can see that 1800 comes out of tank B. Now from tank C, how much would come out? 2500 minus 900. 2500 minus 900 is 1600. That will come out of tank C. But when I talk about tank D, we do not know that in which pipe how much would go. 2500 minus 500 is 2000. So out of that 2000, some would go here and some would go here. Similarly, when I talk about pipe tank E, 2500 minus 200, that is 2300 would come out of it, and some would go in this pipe, some would go in this pipe, and some would go in this pipe, and that way it would flow. I want to minimize the flow here. I want to minimize the flow here. If I want to minimize the flow here, of course, I'll try to minimize the flow into F as well, because this pipeline is coming out of F. So what is the minimum possible flow that I can have into F? So from here I can say when 2500 minus 500, so from tank D, I can send minimum 100 because it was given at least 100 should flow in each pipeline. So out of 2000, 100 would go in this pipeline. The remaining 1900 can come here. Similarly, when I talk about out of tank E, 2500 minus 200, that is 2300. I will have to say minimum 100 over here. So 23 minus 100 is 2200. In this pipeline, I can send the whole of 2000. The remaining 200 can flow through it, right? So 2000 goes from here, 200 goes from here, 100 goes in that direction. After this 2000 goes from here, so 2000 minus 100, that is equal to 1900, right? So out of that 1900, minimum 100 should go here, 1800 would go from here. I will try to maximize flow through these pipes so that I can minimize the flow through this pipe. That's what I'm trying to do here. Now, how much is coming into F? Just have a look at this. 1800 comes from here, 100 comes from here, 100 comes from here. So 1800 plus 100, that is 1900, plus 100, that is 2000. 2000 comes from all of these. 2000 comes from all of this. Out of this 2000, 600 is the requirement at F. Out of this, 600 is the requirement at F. So out of this 600 is the requirement at F, the remaining is 1400. The question is, can I send all 1400 in this pipeline? Probably not. The reason, in this tank I am already getting 100 from here, 200 from here, which makes it 300. 300 plus 1900, 2200, plus 1600 is 3800. 3800 is already coming in. 3,800. Out of that 3,800, this tank would keep 2,000, remaining 1,800. 1,800 is already flowing through this pipe. So I can maximum send 200 more from here, so that this 200 would also go through this pipe, and this pipe has a capacity of a maximum 2,000 only. Therefore, I am saying that from this pipeline, out of that remaining 1,400, 200 would go here, and the remaining 1,200 must flow through this pipeline. So that is the answer for question number 16. That is equal to 2,000, 1,200. So these questions are to be done exactly in this way. There is no other way of doing it. There is no direct formula. These are logical questions. You have to deal with them in logic ways. What is the maximum possible slack between junctions I and K? Let's talk about this now. Maximum possible slack between junctions I and K. So I want to maximize the slack. We already discussed about it. Slack is the capacity left from that pipe. That means if slack is to be maximized, the flow should be minimized. The minimum flow will automatically maximize the slack from this. So I want to have a minimum flow from here. So let's again talk about this. 2,500 comes here, 2,500 comes here, 2,500 comes here, 2,500 comes here. Out of this 2,500, 700 is kept here, remaining 1,800 would come here. Out of this 1,800, 600 would be kept here. So 1,200 can flow from here. 1,200 can flow from here. I still have 800 more which can flow through this. So from the remaining pipes, I can probably send 800 to in this direction. Of course, I would be sending minimum now to tank E, so that the flow from I to K be minimized. Similarly, from this 2,500, it has to come 1,600 over here. You don't have an option. You can't stop it. I can do something about tank D and E now. Let's talk about these two tanks. First of all, let me talk about E. Out of this 2,500, 200 would be kept here. Remaining is 2,300. I can send maximum 2,000 here, right? Maximum 2,000 here. Out of which 100 would be kept here. The 1,900 can go, sorry, 1,800 can go here. I'll have to send 100 here. Please keep that in mind. Every pipeline should have at least 100 flowing through this. Similarly, out of 2,500, 200 was kept. The remaining 2,300 was there. From that 2,300, I sent 2,000 here. 300 is still left. I will have to send at least 100 here. The remaining 200 I can send there. The remaining 200 I can send there, which again can flow through this pipe. So still I can send 600 more to that tank. I can send 600 more to that tank. Now 2,500 comes from here, out of which 500 is kept here, that is 2,000. From that 2,000, what if I send 600 there? That 600 can straight away pass through, and it would all become 2,000 passing through this line, but the remaining 1,400 must go this pipeline. But there is one thing, we still have not sent anything from this pipeline. That means even if I send 700 here and 1,300 here, so that 100 can come in this direction. Out of that 700, 600 goes here, 100 can come here. So how much is coming to tank E? 100 plus 1,600, 1,700 plus 1,300 is 3,000 plus 100 plus 100 is 3,200. Out of that 3,200, 2,000 would be kept by I. That means the remaining 1,200 will flow through it. 1,200 flows through it. So what is the slack? Capacity is 2,000, 1,200 is flowing through it. So the slack is 2,000 minus 1,200, and that is 800, which is the right answer for question number 17. Here is the next question. What is the supply to the tank K? So now we have to find out what is the supply to the tank K. I think this is the easiest among all of them. I am sending 2,500 into 4 from tank A, from these 4 pipes. So that makes it 10,000. From all of that 10,000, 700 is kept here, 900 is kept here, 500 is here, 200 is here. Similarly, in all these tanks, what is the requirement? 7 plus 9, 16, plus 5, 21, plus 2, 23, plus 6, 29, plus 1, 30, that is 3,000, plus 2,000 is 5,000, 5,150 and 50, that is 5,200. So 5,200 is the requirements of the tank. Where would the remaining go? That is 4,800. That would go to tank K. So therefore, the answer for 18th question is 4,800. What is the total slack in the pipe connecting EF, EG and EI? So that is this pipe EF, EG is this pipe, and EI. What is the total slack in these three? The simple point is 2500 comes through this, 200 is kept by tank E, 2300 would flow through these three pipelines. These three pipelines have a combined capacity of 6000 and 2300 will flow through them. So the remaining is the slack through these pipelines, which is 3700, because that is what slack is called. Total capacity minus the flow. So 3700 becomes the right answer for this question. And lastly, what does it say? If there is minimum possible slack in liters between junction D and F, what is the minimum possible flow between junctions F and J? So we want the slack to be minimum possible between D and F. Slack is minimum possible, that means flow is maximum possible, right? So 2500 comes from here, 1800 goes through this. Out of this 600, I can send 1200 ahead. I want to minimum possible flow between F and J. Once again, I want to minimize the flow here. Now, he also says that minimum slack is there between F and, DF. Now, when 2500 goes towards D, out of that 500 is kept here. Out of the remaining 2000, I can send 100 here because every pipe should contain minimum 100. So 1900 can be sent here, which makes the slack minimum possible in DF. Of course, the CI would be having 1600 as we discussed before. And of course, we can talk about the others as well. Now I want to minimize the flow here. Can I say from E to F, minimum 100 would go? From E to F, minimum 100 would go. Similarly, from E to I, minimum 100 would go. So out of this 2500, 200 comes here, that is 2300. The remaining can be sent here, but I have just sent 200. I can't send 2100 through this pipe. So therefore, let's send 200 over here. The remaining 2000 can go through this. Out of this 100 is kept here, 1900 may say 1800 is sent here. The remaining 100 can be sent through this. This is the process. So already how much is coming to this tank? 1600 plus 100, 1700 plus 200, 1900 plus 100, that is 2000. So 2000, the requirement of this tank is fulfilled. But still, I have to send minimum 100 here. That means in this pipe, I need minimum 100 more. I need minimum 100 more. So let's have a look this. 1800 plus 1900 is 3700. 37 plus 100 is 3800. Out of this 3800, 600 would be kept by this tank. The remaining is 38 minus 600. 38 minus 600 is 3200. From that 3200, what is the minimum I can send here? Right? I want to send minimum over here. Can I say that I can send maximum 2000 over here? Right? From that 3200, I can send maximum 2000 over here. The remaining 1200 can be sent here, and that 1200 is the minimum possible flow from F to J, and that would be the right answer for this question number 20. I hope you have understood this.